Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host of The Lockdown. It's Zach Danger and number 12.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of The Lockdown.
Hey.
I am your host, Zach Danger, formerly known as the Fumi Abe.
I am number 12, and I'm slowly becoming Michael Nguyen again. You know, like how a robot is like wishes that he was a real boy.
Yeah.
And slowly over time he becomes a real boy.
Yes.
That's becoming me, I think.
You're also working with a very good professor, aka me. I'm Zach Danger, aka PhD. I'm fixing you every week, making you more into human. Have you seen that Robin Williams movie about the robot that becomes a human?
I know what movie you're talking about. I haven't seen it. Was it good?
Yeah, it was good.
Terrible.
It was pretty good. I was 8. I don't know. Everything was good back then, you know.
Oh, I was like 24, so I was like, I'm not watching this. This looks like it's for an 8-year-old, and sure enough, Fumi watched it.
I remember back then, my friend's dad would buy, because it was R-rated. My friend's dad would buy us movie tickets, and he'd be like, "Okay, I'll see you guys." He'll like walk in with us. He's like, "I'm gonna go to the bathroom, guys," and he would just go home. And then me and my friend would just watch it as two 8-year-olds in a rated R movie. Because back then, movie tickets were $3.50, dude. It was wild.
Why was it R-rated? I want to know that. Why?
There was some like sex between robots and humans.
Robot sex.
Robot sex. Yeah.
Excelente.
Well, somebody's clearly dying outside your window, so that's nice, Mike.
Nope, it's just regular, just nothing happening at all, and people just like to honk. I love it.
Before we get into the thing I want to talk about, I do want to start saying this again. If you're Listening to this on Apple or Spotify or YouTube now, please take a screenshot and post it on Instagram stories. Tag us at Asian.AsianPod. And if you're a true anal. That's a Asian listener for new listeners out there. I'm not just talking about butt sex. If you're true anal, please find us on patreon.com/Asian.AsianPod and subscribe. And you can get bonus episodes. And we started doing them again, and it's a lot of fun. And now we have video. So definitely check that out. On to our first order of business. Dude, this has been fucking with my mind this entire week. From so many angles, just because I'm a podcaster and I'm really interested in the business, but also just like I can't believe the New York Times wrote about them, you know? And so what happened, if you're a podcast fan or you may have seen them in the iTunes rankings, they're very, very popular. I think they're like number 2 to Joe Rogan. Call Her Daddy, which is like a dating sex podcast hosted by these like two hot chicks, Alex Cooper and Sophia something. And they broke up, dude. They freaking broke up.
I heard. I've heard of them. Obviously, I'm not in their wheelhouse. I'm like barely in the Barstool Sports wheelhouse, which is kind of like the parent media company that kind of ran it for a while, and that's really kind of the crux of this whole thing. But then it was on the New York Times, like you said, and I was like, oh, I gotta like find out this. You know, I feel like if I can get into some podcast gossip, you know, New York Times got me covered, dude. So I wanted to check that out.
And that's what was so weird about it is because like I listen to the podcast sometimes just from like a research perspective. I'm not like a daddy gang is what they call their fans.
Is that what they're called? Okay.
Yeah, anals is better. What's good? But like it's just what's funny is like podcast talk turns me on now. Does that make sense? Like I'm so interested in podcast talk.
So I guess for people who don't know, right? Call Me Daddy is a sex dating podcast, and for a while it was released under Barstool Sports. Barstool Sports is like a bro media thing.
It's like the only place where like white people are allowed to be white these days, I think.
Except the whole world. So besides that, the whole world. But it's like if ESPN Barstool Sports is like ESPN, but you know, but like in a frat basement. That's what I sort of describe Barstool Sports. So that's like the big media company, and the two hosts they talk about their dating lives, and they talk about you know Tinder, and I think one of them is in a relationship now with an HBO executive. I don't know what level of HBO executive he is. He seems like not super senior, but like, you know, up there somewhere. And it's funny because they call him Suit Man, which is fine. And the two girls decided to kind of split ways because of the contract terms that Barstool Sports had tried to kind of push on them.
Yeah, but it's like pretty at the end. I watched this 30-minute video that this chick put out, Alex Cooper. She's like the hot blonde one, and I watched the whole thing, and she explains it. And so like, yes, there was some contract stuff, but at the end, they just wanted different business goals and business deals.
Oh, the two of them did. Okay, the two of them wanted different business goals. Interesting.
Because they were gonna give the IP back. They initially gave the IP away, but they were gonna get it back. But then like they both wanted the IP, but one didn't want. The one wanted to take the IP and walk away, which Barstool was not going to let her do, and the other one was like, "Okay, if you let me have the IP, I'll stay with Barstool." And basically, what's crazy is like, this is what I want to talk about. They're getting paid $500,000 to do their podcast. $500,000, and that's not including bonuses. And that first year when there were nobodies, they're getting paid $75,000, and like within 4 months they got raises and stuff. So it raises this question of like. It raises this question of like a lot of fans, when that number came out, they started leaving negative reviews because they're like, this is really fun, but you guys get paid $500,000 to talk about fucking blowjobs. Like, this is insane. So if you look at their iTunes thing, a lot of people, like the finance aspect of it, upset the fans because people are like, oh, I thought this was supposed to be like about me, like a 20-year-old hot girl in New York who's broke. But you're not fucking broke at all.
You're not broke. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I think that's... This is kind of, it's like the updated version of like Sex and the City, you know. It's like it's kind of, it's just it's presented as this is what people go through, but like it's a fantasy, you know, and you know, there's all this money going back and forth. I actually kind of I side with the podcasters, the two hosts, because you know, I'm a fellow podcaster creator. And I know how important IP is. Our IP is worth nothing. It's nobody would pay. You know, and it's sad to me because you just said like when they first got paid, they got paid $75,000. I would jump on that right away.
Yes.
I'll sign that right away.
That's so funny because if someone told me and you that we would get paid $75K for the rest of our life to just do this, I would be like, no negotiations. Like, I'm good.
Nope.
Like,
are you kidding me? Yep.
I can buy a Prius. Yep. Like, we would be the best clients of Barstool Sports or whatever.
Yeah. We should go there. We should pitch Barstool. Hey,
I know.
Instead of having two hot girls talking about sex, do you want two Asian guys who just talk about business?
But they don't work in business. They don't know that much about. We don't work in
business, but yeah, we just read like the back of the Wall Street Journal.
But
so
the funniest fucking part was in this apology video, this like explanation video that was like fucking 30 minutes long. And this girl actually is pretty smart, and she acts dumb on the podcast, but this YouTube video is pretty good, and it's very heartfelt. And by the end of it, you're like, man, I really side with her. But she ends the video with like, yeah, and like, you know, she's talking about legal battles, the fees, all this shit she had to go through, and she's like, yeah, all I want to do is get back out there and talk about anal. And that, I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's funny. All this business talk just so she could talk about like giving somebody a titty job or something like that, you know? And I think my takeaway from this entire article was that we need a scandal, Mike. We need a scandal, dude. We need a scandal. Say something racist. Say something really racist right now, dude.
Oh no, scandals only work if you care about the people involved. Okay, nobody cares about us, so it would just be like two, like, you know, it's like, oh, like two hobos get in a fight in a bus. Like, nobody cares about two hobos getting in a fight. That would be our scandal. It would be like two nobody Asian comedians say racist stuff and nobody gives a shit. Yeah, fantastic.
This is great.
It's fun. That's funny.
Scandals for non-famous people are just memes. You and I would just be a meme.
It's just a meme. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
But I am keeping track of what's going on, and I do think it's fascinating. You know, just like the intersection of like social media, because they both have like really big social media followings, and like podcast is like a social media thing, right? So it's podcast, social media, fame, money. You know. You know, I know she says that she's like, oh, I just want to get out there and talk about anal. Like, I feel that. I mean, I feel that. I mean, honestly, like, we call our fans anals. Like, I mean, she is not any different from us. Like, like, we're going out there and like, what are we, Nobel Prize winners? No, we're going out there and we're still also talking about jerking off and like how lonely we are. So it's like, you know, we're in the same boat. She makes a lot more money than us.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's interesting, and I think that's what's we're gonna keep track, and that's sort of what we wanted to talk about today.
Yes,
and in a larger sense too.
Yes.
You know, so
with our guest. And yes, I'm going to introduce our guest, and I'm so excited to have her on because we tried to get her forever, and we just couldn't because she was too busy being famous. Being famous. We couldn't get her, and it took a goddamn global pandemic, or whatever it's called, to get her. And boy, do we hope it was worth it. Because otherwise, why even bother? So our guest today, she's a violinist, former model, rock star.
Oh.
And a fellow music business alumni from my program.
Oh my God.
Actually, I think she transferred out, so I can't even really say that. But dude, she's been on like SNL, Samantha Bee, Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, all over the place. Not doing comedy, playing music, of course. But yeah, I'm so excited to talk to her about all this. So let's give it up for the amazing Katy Jacobi.
Woo woo.
How's it going? Hi.
Yay. Dude, thank you
Pressure's
so much for coming on. I know.
Here we are at last.
We tried to first get you in like 2018, I think,
Right.
It took 2 years in a pandemic, just like you were saying.
Yeah, I for a while I thought you were trying to avoid us. But your fiance at your birthday party assured us that you wanted to do this, so I kept annoying you, and here we are, and I'm so excited.
To be here.
It's funny because I was reading up on some of your previous interviews, and I saw that if you're right, I mean, Fumi's right. If the pandemic hadn't happened, you wouldn't physically be here, because I was looking at you play with The Who. And
yes.
The Who were supposed to be like in Ireland and Scotland, and I was like, and then all those things were like rescheduled, and I was like, whew, man, well, this is just as good,
Here we are.
This is
not in Scotland with The Who, but instead you're here in Brooklyn.
With
Fumi.
Yeah, exactly.
With who?
Good one.
We had this crazy 2-month tour planned. We were going to be in the UK for about a month. Scotland, Wales, Dublin, London, just traversing through the country.
Oh my God.
And then we were going to do almost another month in the US, headlining at Jazz Fest in New Orleans.
Ah, shit.
2 weeks in Las Vegas, other shows just all around the country. And instead, just home on my couch.
Yep.
She's just roasting A&A, and it's fine.
Yeah,
That's the way we like to begin this.
Classic.
I want to, for the listeners who don't know, I want to talk real quick about how we met, okay? How did I meet Katy Jacobi, this famous person who tours with The Foo? How is it possible that this weird Asian man, not even wearing pants right now, knows this?
You're not wearing pants?
I mean, I'm wearing shorts,
I'm definitely
my pajama
not wearing
shorts.
pants, and everyone can see. So, yeah.
But I met Katy at a very, very vulnerable time in my life, Mike. I was 18, just out of high school. I went to NYU for a, orientation. I met her, I think I told a story before, I met her the same weekend when I took a shit in the dorm trash can. Do you remember that?
Historic week.
I love that I'm learning more pieces about Fumi's back life, in terms of just when he pooped in places he wasn't supposed to poop. It's like, oh, okay, is that before the trash can incident or after the trash can incident?
He didn't mention the trash can incident at all until years later.
Okay. Yeah, years later.
Otherwise, the friendship would have been over.
Yeah, that's no way to make a friend. But yeah, I saw her we were waiting to sign up for classes or something, and I remember what she was wearing, not in a creepy way, but listen, Mike, you'll like this. She had a belt on that was made out of machine gun bullets.
Yeah, dude, hell yeah, bro.
This was before all of the crazy, I mean, there was already gun violence, but at the time it was just kind of like, oh, this is my touch of heavy metal toughness, and this little fashion accessory will supplement my cute outfit. But now I can't wear that shit anymore.
I didn't even think about that. You don't think you can wear a bullet belt anymore because of school shootings?
I never would. But in high school, I used to wear the white high top sneakers and really skinny ass black jeans and Iron Maiden t-shirt. My friends and I, we used to just pretend it was 1980s in the Bay Area.
Hell yeah.
That was just my fashion.
Yeah.
But now kind of shifted a little.
Hell yeah, man. Well, we kind of wanted to loop you in on this Call Her Daddy drama. And I know you're not a huge fan of it, or you don't know it, and that's fine. But I wanted to talk about fame a little bit, We've talked about this a little bit before, but as a musician, you're as close as you're like kind of like a road comic to me, you know, like somebody who tours constantly. That's how you make like the majority of your money. And
Sure.
I'm not mean that. I don't mean that like in an offensive way. I think it's an amazing thing. But I remember like you were trying to crack Instagram for a little bit, and like I think you were having some trouble with that. And then you have some colleagues who like I don't exactly know what they do, but they do like some sort of music shit on Instagram. I don't follow any Instagram musicians, but like that's like a whole culture, right? And I was wondering like
there
if you
absolutely is.
I was wondering if you can like talk about that a little bit.
I think there's all sorts of different things. I mean, there's definitely the subset of women who play an instrument in a bikini, and that's like the whole vibe of it.
I didn't know that people played that. They were like thought musicians. Like, did you know that, Mike? Like people playing instruments in their bikinis.
There is that version of everything.
Yeah,
there is just you just add that, you know, adjective in front of any chess, you know. For sure,
Yo.
that's a thing. And if I Google it, it'll be in my Google search forever, and I don't want to do that. Katy, you're supposed to be like you're supposed to be out and touring, and was it a huge shock, like going from, you know, like, oh, I'm supposed to be in Vegas, I'm supposed to be in New Orleans, and now
Absolutely.
I'm like, now you're stuck here. What's that like? And like, are you still like, how are you putting stuff out, you know?
I think the most depressing thing was getting the Google Calendar alerts of like, you should have been in London tonight.
Yeah.
Or you should have been.
Oh,
shit. I still had them all in there. And those were little jabs, little reminders of what could have been. But I think the community of every artist, musicians, comedians, suddenly all of the momentum that we all had was just stopped.
Right.
Like, I have no gigs, Justin Bieber has no gigs, Ozzy Osbourne has no gigs. We are all in the same boat.
How so, like, we've been talking about that, and, you know, me and Fumi on the pod, and in a lot of ways we feel like, oh, like our kind of careers trajectory has kind of like the momentum has stopped, and now we're kind of like we're having to scramble. Like, how does it feel? Because, you know, obviously, you're a touring musician, so you make money through that, but then also like, are you now like thinking like, wow, like, what if we can't have concerts, and what if I can't tour for like a year? You know, are you thinking now I got to become a bikini violinist? You know, is that what the move is now? What's happening?
You never know. There might need to be a major pivot just to generate income, buy groceries and whatnot.
Yeah, this is like a rare chance for me to talk to someone who is not just a touring musician in a crappy van, you know, going up and down the eastern seaboard. Like, you know, you're like touring with The Who, you know, just very quickly for our fans, it's like, how did you like get that particular gig? Because I know you were like, you know, you were a musician, and you were saying you're like hustling, you were doing all sorts of stuff, doing all these different things, but yeah, how did that just connect? And then I also want to talk about just like what it's like doing that.
Sure. Well, I started playing violin at the age of 6. Asian daughter.
Shouts.
Korean mom.
Yeah.
Props.
Oh, yeah.
My mom's actually an amazing pianist, and she wanted me to play the piano, but I'm like, no, I want to play the violin because I want to be different. And also,
oh, what a rebel.
My aunt plays the violin, and she was and still is a huge inspiration.
That's cool.
So kind of drew from that. Did the classical violin thing until about middle school, junior high, discovered Black Sabbath and the powers of rock and roll, and then things just changed drastically. I got an electric violin, started playing rock and jazz and blues.
Got a bullet gun, belt,
machine gun belt.
Yeah, no gun, but just a belt.
Just a belt,
and, was a massive classic rock fan growing up. Just
That's cool.
Sabbath, The Who, Led Zeppelin, all of those guys, and played Baba O'Reilly, one of The Who's top songs with the violin solo at the end. Played that at my high school's Battle of the Bands, which we happened to win. And
ooh, that must sting, Fumi. Sorry about that.
Ooh, Battle of the Bands. I was second place. Our band sucked.
Triggered? Oh no!
Wait, what was your band's name?
Exodus City.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Mine was
that sounds sweet.
Mine was Midnight Nice Guys.
Oh, come on, Fumi. You have the word nice guys in there? Oh, I didn't know. I just lost so much respect. This podcast is over.
Yo, we were good, bro. We were good.
No, that's sweet though. Okay, so you're doing that in high school.
Yep, moved to New York City to go to NYU. That's where I met Fumi in the music business program because my very practical mother didn't want me to major in music because it's not a practical career, but music business was kind of the compromise because just it had the word business tacked on at the end of it, so suddenly that made it okay.
Yep.
And doing the freelance violin thing, playing at private events or with bands in the string section for Jimmy Fallon or SNL.
Yeah.
And this very random gig, I was working as the violin consultant for the TV show Mozart in the Jungle. And for that,
Amazon Prime.
I would... Yeah. I would make sure that the actors who didn't play the violin weren't holding the instrument upside down or anything, so that it looked authentic. And a man that I met from that show put me in touch with The Who's management when Roger Daltrey was doing an orchestral tour of the Tommy record. And so that was the summer of 2018. And then last year in 2019, then I got the invitation to join The Who for their tour.
That's insane. So like when you first got that, I feel like that's one of those like big break kind of things where you're like, oh, this is like such a cool gig to have. It sounds like you were always trying to gig. Did you ever feel like, oh man, like I hope I'm up for this? Do you know what I'm saying? Like if like Bill Burr asked me to open for him, you know, I would be like, I mean, I would say yes. And then I would be like, man, I should get good at comedy because I'm not good right now. Did you feel like that, you know?
I didn't, only because I'd been playing the song for so long. I think it was just absolutely surreal and very humbling to be sharing the stage with these two guys who basically helped invent rock and roll as we know it today.
You know, tying it back to what we were talking about before with, you know, the Call Her Daddy podcast. And, you know, Fumi and I talk about this a lot where there's a difference between, you know, grinding and the skills that you have as a musician or as a performer, and then the sort of outward success that people perceive you to have, right?
Sure.
I don't know if that makes sense, right? But, you know, like, let's just say, like, you know, there's got to be some, you know, Instagram musicians who are like, you know, they're fine at their thing, but they have a lot of followers. And, you know, do you ever find that to be frustrating? Because, you know, you're obviously like the real deal. You're touring with The Who. But, you know, like, but then, you know, you end up comparing yourself to someone who has like a much bigger following, but like maybe they're not technically as good or they haven't been grinding as long. Do you ever like come into like a weird feeling like that?
I think on occasion I'll notice it and then the self-doubt kind of gets set off. But ever since I released my first solo EP last fall, I think that was...
What's it called?
Yeah, what's it called?
Plug it.
It's self-titled. It's just called Katy Jacobi. It's on Spotify and Bandcamp. I think releasing that for me was intensely personal and very important and made me care a little bit less about all the other things going on, just because it's like I made this music for me, I'm proud of it, and I'm excited to keep exploring things of that nature. And it's not so much about the fame as it is about just simply doing the work. I think that's what it comes down to, and I think that's something that has been really helpful for Scott, my fiance, and me during this time, because we're not playing shows to anybody for a while. And I think a day in the life of coronavirus, we wake up and, okay, what are we working on today? Maybe Scott is learning a cool new scale to utilize for guitar, or maybe I layered some strings and wrote a beautiful arrangement in the home studio that day. And it's just these small little triumphs that keep us going.
I think I agree with that. I think, you know, it's always been about doing the work, and I think that's what's kind of tricky with comedy, because like it's hard to do the work when you don't have a crowd, and like for stand-up. But I think, you know, whether you're doing violin or you're just so anxious to talk about anal, it's always about the work. You know, it's always the work.
It's always about the work.
One other thing is, have you had kind of a, you know, hard lesson like the Call Her Daddy hosts have about business, you know, because IP is so important. This is a crappy example of, but important. Fumi and I, when we first started working together, we put out a sketch. And it was on YouTube, and it was it got like 20,000 views or something like that, which was pretty good. Like our first ever sketch.
You're talking about the ninja one?
The ninja one.
That one has like 90K right now.
Well, now it does.
Woo.
Now it does. Right now it has more. Yeah. And somebody contacted us and was like, "Hey, you know, do you want to?"
I forgot about that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
They contacted us and they were like, "Oh, we can help you get on these different channels." And like, I couldn't really understand it. We maintained control of the IP the whole time, but we learned something about, you know, because of their way they released it. If you release something on a certain platform, then you can't put it on Reddit, and like the Reddit moderators will be like, they'll like pull it down. And that was kind of like a little like nip as far as like, oh, we always have to have control of the IP and also like how it's being released. And that's like something we've been mindful of. No one, you know, again, no one is walking in and handing us nobody's handing us $500,000. That's like a different move. But like, have you had a moment like that where you're like, oh, I should be thinking about that sort of thing, you know?
I think that moment perhaps is still to come. Maybe for musicians, it's a little bit different because business managers and record labels or entertainment groups have been taking advantage of musicians since the dawn of time. Probably there was like a roaming court minstrel, and some guy's like, I can get you a gig at this castle, but you're only gonna get a cut of that. Like the 80% is mine.
Oh shit, you're playing the castle? Oh wow.
Yeah. That's a good gig, bro. That's a good gig,
bro. I've been playing dungeons mainly.
Okay, so the race news today is headline reads: America's first pandemic concert shows how far the live music industry has to go. So, in Arkansas, there's a venue called Temple Live. Have you ever played there?
I've not played there.
Have you heard of it? Is that a famous venue?
It could be.
Temple Live, and a singer named Travis McGreedy. He's in a band called I forget what it was called like something Bullet or
Bishop
something like that.
Gun with 2 N's for emphasis.
Yes, and they played their first concert ever, and
since the pandemic.
Since the pandemic, yeah, that'd be funny if it was like it was their first gig ever.
Their first show, their
first
debut.
Show. Wow, they got covered in Rolling Stone. These guys must be awesome.
See, Mike, that's what I'm telling you. We need a scandal like this. We need bad press. We need to go play MSG. They're like, these 2 unknown Asian men snuck in, did a live pod for the MSG janitor.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
I can't wait to read that on page 28 of the newspaper. You know?
Yes. So they were having some issues in the beginning about like, you know, the state didn't want them to do it, but they used like some law, like the argument that the venue owners used to put on this concert was like, well, churches are allowed to congregate, so we should be able to congregate. So that's what they used.
That's a good point. That's a
good
point.
They actually did practice social distancing for Arkansas. Like it was you know, they had a lot of like signs, and like everybody had to wear masks, and they had to get their temperatures checked and stuff like that. And all the food and drinks, they were prepackaged. So they did it. The pictures, they look sad as fuck. I'm sure we've all seen it. And I want to get into a little bit, but like as a musician, Katie, I just wanted to kind of throw it to you. Like, what were sort of your first initial reactions about this?
Yeah, I think the pictures really speak for themselves. Like, this was supposed to be some powerful concert returning in this post-corona world. I mean, we're still very much in corona, and it didn't look like a popular band. It just looked like an underattended high school band that wasn't very popular or anything.
It was the Midnight Nice Guys, everybody. It was my band in high school.
It was very, very bleak. I think I understand that they're eager to play. I am a musician, am also quite eager to return, but not until it's safe. And I don't know if I would want to play in that capacity. It just looked so depressing. And also,
that's so interesting.
Is it even safe?
Yeah.
It's interesting that you just said, I don't want to play in this capacity, because like if we ask our comedian friends, we were just talking to some last night, and they were like, dude, if someone fucking asks me, I'll fucking do it. I know it's not safe, but I'll fucking do it. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
I have a different take on these photos. If you look at these photos, yeah, they only filled it like maybe not even a quarter of the way, but it was still like 200 people.
Yeah.
Sure. And I was like, oh, this looks like a fun time, you know, like, hey, they're out, you know, they're sitting in the theater. And, you know, to your point, Fumi, I would say that, you know, 200 people, hey, that's a lot of people for me to perform for, you know.
It was 200? It was 200?
It was like 200 people or something like that.
But when you're in a room that holds like 2,000, like the density of it,
tenth of the it's because everybody's super spaced out. And man, I would totally do it, man. I was like, this is awesome. I would go up there and do it, but that's because I'm desperate. All right, I'm a desperate person, and you know, I would say my comedy mean crowd size is 5. You know, so like 200, that's pretty good.
That would be a bustling night.
Yeah, Katy, you know, is it? That's kind of, this is sort of a side thing, but like, is it? You know, you've played at these huge stadiums. Is it weird playing smaller things now, or you know, like if there was a gig that was like, you know, let's say the venue was small and it was, you know, a small thing and it was only like a couple hundred people. Does it feel weird going back down to something small after playing like a huge stadium?
It doesn't feel weird going back, but it's just very interesting. I noticed that I get more nervous in the smaller clubs where you can see the people's faces. When it's a packed arena or a packed stadium and you just see like little Q-tip heads, it's just like, oh, they're way out there. But when you're in a small nightclub and there's people 3 feet away from you and you can see if they glance at their phone, I think that's
we've been there.
So you're saying that my crowd size of 5 actually the most scary, huh? Very fair.
There's a lot to be said, a lot of guts to do that.
What do you think is going to be the thing that's going to, you know, allow music? Because like, I mean, music, you know, we've been talking a little bit about business, and you know, musicians, as I understand it, like, touring and performing really is where a lot of the money is. Like, you know, putting out albums is awesome, but like monetarily speaking, like, you know, just because of the way the model is like you're not making that much money from doing that. So, you know, what do you think is going to have to happen, you know, for the industry to come back, and then for you, like, what's going to make it so that you're like, okay, I can go and I can do this thing now?
Well, this Arkansas show, it just cracked me up because, of course, it's Arkansas where they want to get back to normal. No offense to any anals in Arkansas.
No, we got like 2, so it's fine. Yeah.
The thriving Arkansas Asian population.
Yeah.
It just looked bleak. And it's like, is that safe? Like, what if a person had a fever or just they weren't feeling too hot, so they took an Advil and they go to this concert and they get their temperature checked and but they don't have a temperature because they just took that Advil, but they're still going to the place, spreading around their like, that doesn't seem safe.
Right.
I'd be terrified, not so much playing, but just for the safety of the people in the crowd. You don't want to kill off all your fan base.
That's true. Fair point.
Yo, we're gonna kill all of our anals if we do a live podcast, dude.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing about this is like, I was watching like a Vox video about this, and the Vox video was titled like, the US tested the wrong people, because we were testing people who are clearly sick and clearly had the coronavirus who probably did not even need the test. But other countries like Korea, they'll test everybody, and especially people who are not showing symptoms, and then a lot of those people will be contagious, so they lock them up. So
those are the ones who will get you.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like you don't feel like, you know, if you and I, like we were joking earlier, if someone offered me stage time, I'll fucking go do it secretly, you know, because I'm just like, I mean, I say that now, I don't know if I'll actually do it, but like that, it would be a lie if I said that feeling did not exist within me, just because of, I feel like myself when I'm doing stand up, that desire is still there, you know, but it doesn't feel like you're hurting anybody. Because like I feel fine, and like you feel fine, and they were fine, but it's just weird. Because to your point, Katy, like, dude, you're right. Like they were interviewing all these fans. They're like, yeah, we saw them in Mississippi, and now we're gonna see them in Nebraska. And now they're like, every show he has on his tour, like there's just gonna be less and less people because he's just killing them. He doesn't even know.
I saw they were doing drive-in concerts in the parking lot of Yankee Stadium. I would play a drive-in concert. I feel like
sweet.
That's really cool.
there would definitely be the missed element of the audience connection when you just see a sea of cars. But I will take that. At least they'll be distant, and hopefully people don't drink and drive, and I don't know where they pee, but I would do it.
Maybe we can do that, Fumi. Maybe we can go out to LA. We're supposed to go out to LA to do our first live show, but maybe we can do a drive-in comedy
thing, parking lot, like find a Walmart. Find a Walmart.
Set up a stage and be like, how's it going, Toyotas and Camrys?
Yeah,
what's good? That's funny.
Japanese cars say what? Teslas say what?
Yo, honk if you've heard this before, Sucks.
I would love that. Well, that was amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. That was fucking amazing and so good to talk to you. Is there anything you would like to plug and let our anals know?
Sure.
Where they can find you, any shows coming up, your albums.
Well, my name's Katy Jacobi. I'm Katy Jacobi on the Instagram, Twitter. Just plug it in your search engine. I have that solo EP that I released last fall under Katy Jacobi. Check it out on Spotify or your favorite streaming service.
Hey.
And the quarantine project that I've been up to in the home studio has been recording pop violin covers under Kaidama. And so I'm learning like Toosie Slide and like Dua Lipa tracks.
Shit!
Yeah, so check that out. It's just the fruits of my labors in the little home studio.
That's on Instagram?
That's on Spotify under Kaidama.
Sorry, I'm a host of the show. I'm not even listening. I'm looking it up right now. Okay, I will leave a link to all this in our description. That's awesome, dude.
Sweet.
As always, you can find us on the social medias. I'm on there at the Fumi Abe. That's TGIFridays.
And you can find me on Instagram at nicepantsbro.
Please follow our joint account at Asian.AsianPod. We're on Instagram. And Hack City, our monthly comedy show, is now weekly on Zoom, happening to you on a digital platform. So get tickets to that. The link is in our bio link in our Instagram. I also put it in the description link below. And bring friends. It's been a ton of fun. And every week is a different comedian. So we know you're not doing anything, Ano. So come on out and support.
You got nothing to do.
Support your
no
boys.
Excuses.
Support your boys so that we can do a parking lot live podcast show, which, by the way, sounds fucking tight. Let's talk about this after this.
I'll do it.
Yeah, you should do it.
We need to get a car and a parking lot.
No, we don't need a car. They need a car.
Oh, you're right.
We can rent a car and do it on top of the car. We can get a U-Haul, and then we encourage people to leave their windows down so we can hear them laugh.
Or like the moonroof where you just appear from the top of it.
Oh.
We should have two separate cars, and yes, dude.
Dude, I'm gonna get a limo, and then with the roof and just pop out of the roof,
Different ones.
Yeah, what's
prom all over again.
I love it. All right, well, thank you very much, Kitty, for doing this show, and everybody else. Stay safe. It's Memorial Day weekend, so have fun. I don't know.
Have fun to do. It is Memorial Day weekend, so yeah.
Have fun, but stay safe.
Yeah,
stay safe.
And hey, we hope you keep listening because this is all we have. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.